Dragon Skypelander. Hey, it's Casual Jake bringing you the first deck tech for Elder Dragon Skypelander. As some of you might know, I am an independent content creator who started making YouTube videos and streaming, but then got into streaming with some of my friends, and we just decided that we are going to make a content creation group called Elder Dragon Skypelander, and that's why you're here today. We're going to be giving you deck techs, we're going to be giving you gameplay, we're going to be giving you all kinds of stuff, but to make sure that you keep up with that, you need to make sure that you're on our socials. So if you can, please like and subscribe to this channel, give a comment down below, and check out our other social media accounts, which I'll link in the description. So yes, just real quick, the Elder Dragon Skypelanders is a group of content creating Magic players, me, Casual Jake, as well as Olivia, Zach, and Andrew. We were all friends, we all, know each other, and we just decided to make this channel, and I hope you will be along for the ride, because I'll be honest, we have some exciting stuff going on, including our Patreon, which is going to have a bunch of different tiers for rewards, from voting on videos to getting actual, tokens, custom-made tokens. We have a resident artist, she's going to make tokens for y'all, so make sure that you're on with that. But now that I've gotten all that out of the way, let's get into the deck tech. Are you a mage who values raw force over all else? Then look no further than Zilortha, Strength Incarnate, as your next commander. More commonly known as Godzilla, King of the Monsters, this dinosaur is here to wreak havoc and lead your army of behemoths into battle. This card was the Buy a Box promo for the Ikoria set and is, at time of recording, sitting at about $14. But I have tried to make up for this price tab by brewing a deck that is, again, at time of recording, about $40 excluding shipping and basic lands. Level entire planes of existence with this deck and still have change for a booster pack afterwards. Zilortha costs 3 generic, red, and a green to cast and is a 7/3 dinosaur with trample. It also reads, lethal damage dealt to creatures you control is determined by their power rather than their strength. This effectively makes Zilortha a 7/7 for 5 mana, and we can take advantage of this ability to play with big front creatures with low toughnesses that are usually undercosted because of their tiny toughness. A quick note, this only affects damage and will not negate things like -1/-1 counters or similar effects, so beware. But if we can ramp out quickly, play Zilortha, flood the board with other behemoths, and take some extra attack steps, this game will be finished before our opponents know what hit them. And now that we know what the goal of this deck is, let's check out the 99. First, we have ramp spells such as Wild Growth, Rampant Growth, Migration Path, and Nissa's Pilgrimage to get us some basics on the battlefield. Then we have our mana rocks with Gruul Signet and Talisman of Impulse. We also play the traditional mana dorks, Llanowar Elves, Arbor Elf, and Elvish Mystic. But we still need more mana if we're going to summon these big baddies as quickly as possible, so we play what I like to call Mana Geeks, because they're one step above Mana Dorks. Elysian Caryatid and Whisperer of the Winds will be tapping for 2 mana as long as we control a creature with power 4 or greater, and the Caryatid can tap for mana of any color. Next up, Zertod Druid taps for green mana, but does a damage to each opponent when it does so. Beastcaller Savant taps for mana of any color, and can only be used to cast creature spells, and Drover the Mighty also taps for a mana of any color, and gets a little bit bigger if we have a dino in play. Drum Hunter is a card that I just discovered and taps for generic mana, but will draw you a card in your end step if you control a creature with power 5 or more. We want to get these big swingers out fast, and we will need to refill our tank, so this extra card draw works perfectly in this deck. Then we have what has to be my favorite ramp card in this deck with Geyer Sage. Geyer Sage is a 1/2 with Evolve, meaning if a creature enters with a higher power or toughness than the Sage, it gets a 1/1 counter. Then the Sage taps for green mana equal to the number of counters on it. This card is going to scale up as we continue to cast big spells and can potentially be tapping for 5+ mana if left unchecked. Now we love ramp in this deck, so much that we even have heavy hitters who are also going to ramp. Beanstalk Giant can go on an adventure and get a basic land onto the battlefield, untapped by the way, and then come back later and have power and toughness equal to our land count. We also run Goreclaw, Terror of Kal Sisma, who makes our creatures with power 4 or greater 2 less to cast, and then when they attack, they pump our other 4 and greaters by 1 and give them trample. Plus, that 4/3 body is really a 5/5 when you add its own anthem, plus Zilortha's ability. We also run Neheb, Dreadhorde Champion, who has trample, and when they deal damage to a player, you may discard any number of cards, draw that many, and add that amount of red mana to your pool. Ditch dead cards, draw new ones, and ramp in your second main phase. Sounds like a win to me. And lastly in this category, we play a card that didn't really fit into any other categories but pulls a lot of weight in this deck. Druid Repository reads, whenever a creature you control attacks, put a charge counter on Druid's Repository. Remove a charge counter from Druid's Repository. Add 1 mana of any color. In this deck, we are going to be swinging often, and this enchantment allows us to channel that aggression into a mana reserve that can help us rebuild if all our mana dorks are destroyed, or even provide mana for some of the pump spells that we will mention later in the video. In all cases, this card is Value Town in this deck. I think it should see more play in more decks anyways. And in our next category, we have the Bruisers. These are creatures with lots of power who are going to happen to effectively have higher toughnesses due to Zilortha's ability. Giant Solifuge is a 4/1 for 4 mana but has Trample, Haste, and Shroud, so it will evade targeted removal. Inferno Titan and Gigapede are resilient creatures that you can get back if they are destroyed. Rubble Belt Rioters is unassuming until it swings alongside our other Bruisers, where its power becomes equal to the greatest power among our attacking creatures, plus, come on, that flavor text. Renata, Caller of the Hunt, is going to get more powerful the larger our devotion to green is, as well as give each creature that enters the battlefield after them a 1/1 counter. Anax, Hardened in the Forge, will also have a power equal to our devotion to red, and also is going to give us some removal insurance by creating a 1/1 Satyr token when a non-token creature dies on our side, or 2 tokens if that creature has power 4 or greater. Inferno Titan deals 3 damage divided as you want when it enters the battlefield, and is a perfect mana sink for its fire breathing ability that can increase its power. Lightning Mare is similar, except it can't be countered or blocked by blue creatures, and its fire breathing is 2 mana rather than the 1 for Titan. Then we have the creatures with evasion. Well, I guess it's not really evasion when it's just trample and you just trample over your opponents, but anyways, you get the point. We are going to try and have the biggest creatures on the board, so we need trample to make sure that we aren't getting chump blocked by tokens. Challenger Troll makes it so that our creatures with power 4 or greater cannot be blocked by more than 1 creature. Siege Behemoth and Proud Wildbonder grant some of our creatures the ability to assign damage as if they weren't blocked. Now this doesn't negate the damage that they take, but since we have Zilortha's ability behind us, we can hopefully outmatch most blocks and take down our opponent's life total quicker than they can overcome. Another notice, this does not equal trample, meaning you can't assign some damage to the block and some to the opponent. It's either all damage goes to the block or all the damage is going to go to our opponent's face. Then we have Hero of Oxid Ridge, which has Battle Cry, an ability that when it attacks, it's going to boost all other creatures by +1/+0 until end of turn. It also has, when it attacks, creatures with power 1 or less can't block this turn. Again, this will get us around any tokens that we may come in contact with. Archetype of Aggression gives all of our creatures trample and makes sure no opponent's creatures can have trample, and Quartzwood Crasher makes it so that whenever one of our creatures with trample deals combat damage to a player, we get to create another XX Trampling Dinosaur token, where X is the amount of damage those creatures dealt. This is going to spiral into bigger and bigger tokens as we amass more and more trampling creatures, and it's just an insane inclusion in this deck. We also run ways to bolster our troops, and when we boost the power, we are incidentally boosting the toughness thanks to our commander. Moonveil Dragon has a 1 red mana ability that gives +1/+0 to all of our creatures and is the perfect mana sink in the later game. Ogre Battle Driver gives our creatures haste as well as pumps them +2/+0 until end of turn. Gruul Warchant is an enchantment that gives all attacking creatures +1/+0 and menace. Evasion and Ferocity of the Wilds gives our attacking non-humans +1/+0 and trample, which works well since we'll be mostly swinging with non-humans anyway. Now with such big creatures, combat damage will be our main source of removal, but just in case we have a few targeted pieces to help clear the path to victory. Follow the Hammer lets us deal damage equal to one of our creature's power to another creature. Uvenwald Tracker, you can tap it and pay 1 in green, and if you do, you can have one of our creatures fight another creature. Lastly, we have Ram Through, which can even win us the game later on. It lets us deal damage equal to one of our creature's power to target creature we don't control. Then if that creature has trample, it deals excess damage to our opponent. If their life is low enough and our creature is big enough, we can win the game right on the spot with this instant speed removal. With all these giants on the board, we want to hit our opponents as fast as we can with these haste enablers so we can get the job done as efficiently as possible. Fires of Yavimaya is an enchantment that gives our creatures haste and can be sacrificed to give +2/+2 to a creature just for that final push. Serac the Hunt Caller is a 5/4 with Formidable, which means if we have a combined power of 8 with creatures on our board, Serac can give target creature haste at the beginning of the combat phase. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, Ogre Battle Driver gives haste to creatures with the enters the battlefield, as well as that +2/+0 boost. But we need to refill our grip as we play creature after creature. As far as one-time card draw spells go, we have Harmonize, which will draw us 4, and Return to the Wild Speaker, which we can use to draw cards equal to the greatest power amongst non-humans we control, or it can give all our non-humans +3/+3. A good way to end the game. Then we have Shamanic Revelation, which will draw us a card for each creature we control, and can even gain us some life. We also run a number of repeatable card draw spells such as Garruk's Pack Leader and Elemental Bond, which will draw us a card whenever a creature with power 3 or more enters the battlefield on our side. Then Colossal Majesty will draw us an extra card on our upkeep as long as we control a creature with power 4 or greater, and hint hint, we probably will. We run a few Planeswalkers as well, with Domri Anarch of Bolas, who gives our creatures +1/+0, can add mana to our mana pool, and make sure our creatures are uncounterable this turn, as well as give us a fight ability. We also have Semut, Tyrant Smasher, who gives our creatures haste, and we can take down to give +2/+0 and haste to a creature, plus we get a Scry. And now we get to talk about the ways we are going to win, and most games we play this deck, we are going to win with extra combat steps. Yes, blue gets extra turns, but we don't need all that mess. We just need more combat to smash more face. First off, we have a neat interaction between the cards Savage Vintmaw, which gives us 6 mana when it attacks, and Hellkite Charger, which says if we pay 5 and 2 red, we get to untap all of our attackers and take an extra combat. That means if we have both of these out and attacking, it will only cost us 1 mana per extra combat, and at that point we should be able to finish the game out. But in case we don't get both of these creatures onto the battlefield, we also have Fury of the Horde, which we can exile 2 red cards rather than pay its casting cost. It allows us to untap all creatures that attack this turn, and after our second main phase, we get another combat and main phase. Relentless Assault does the same thing without the alternate casting cost. Seize the Day grants additional combat and main phases, and has a flashback cost so we can use it a second time. Our last extra combat spell is Breath of Fury. This enchantment aura goes on one of our creatures and reads, when this enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it and attach Breath of Fury to a creature you control. If you do, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there is an additional combat phase. That means you can keep doing this as long as you have creatures that can connect in combat. Yes, you will be sacrificing them, but if it's in the late game, you should only need a few extra steps to finish the game anyways. Lastly, we have some alternative win conditions in case combat is not the clearest path to victory. Warstorm Surge will deal damage to a creature or player when a creature you control enters the battlefield. That damage is equal to that creature's power, and with the big creatures we're summoning, we will make quick work of our opponents. Roar of the Challenge forces our opponent to put all their blockers in front of one creature, and if we have 4 power or greater on the board, well, that creature's going to become indestructible. The best way to abuse this is to place the effect on a mana dork and make all of them block our mana dork. It's just hilarious to see them all block a Llanowar Elves. You know, this little 1/1 who's indestructible, who's not even going to die, while Zalortha and the rest of the big baddies like just tiptoe around and hit them and finish them off. It's awesome. Awesome win. And then, of course, we have Fling. You know, if it comes to it, we can just fling our big guys at them and, you know, win the game. Well, dang it, I guess I lied, because lastly, we actually have some recommendations from Core Set 21, which at time of recording is slated to release next week, actually. It's so exciting. So make sure you check your pre-release packs and booster boxes for these cards to add them to your list. Leafkin Druid is going to tap for green mana equal to the number of creatures we control with power 4 or greater, which will be a lot of green mana. Terror of the Peaks is a dragon that costs 3 life just to be targeted by our opponents. Plus, this card is like Warstorm Surge on a stick, so when our creatures come in, they're going to deal damage equal to their power to our opponents. We also want to find a slot for Geyric's Uprising, which most times will draw us a card, and then we'll give our creatures trample, and when our creatures with power 4 or greater deal combat damage, we're going to draw cards. Oh yeah, and if you crack that Heroic Intervention, make sure you slot that in as well. And that's the deck for you. The full deck list is in the description if you want a closer look at the deck. You'll want to ramp out fast, cast your commander, and flood the board with big power creatures and hopefully overwhelm your opponents. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking it, subscribing to the page, and commenting your thoughts down below. The engagement really helps out the channel. Also check out the links in the description for my social media accounts, as well as go and follow and subscribe to all the social media accounts for Elder Dragon Skypelander. I'm telling you, we're going to do a lot of cool deck techs, a lot of great people working on that page, so make sure you go check that out. So are you ready to become royalty and lead the monsters of this world to victory? If so, go forth and embody what it means to be Godzilla, King of Monsters. And make sure that you cast your spells on curve, so Don't forget to play your land drops. I'm Casual Jake. We'll see you next time.